Hello, everyone. My name is Aaliyah Marrow. I am a former professional tennis player and current filmmaker and a member of the DLE Advisory Board, who is based in Durham, North Carolina. I'll be co-moderating today's program with my DLE colleague, Khaled Rocha, who you'll meet shortly. It's exciting to see so many faces and so many people who are joining us for the first time ever for this DLE program. So welcome, everyone. The DLE Culture Chat is a business-oriented open forum that examines changes and challenges in today's workplace. In just 60 minutes, we aim to engage multiple perspectives through a moderated format that promotes respectful conversations about vital topics with actionable takeaways. Designed for interactivity, the program unites accomplished professionals from various backgrounds. Our goal is to help you grow what you know and who you know in a welcoming, supportive, professional environment. This is one of the most popular programs that we produce. We have more than 30 registrants from a diverse array of industries, organizations, roles, and locations. So before we get going, I'd like to thank the volunteers of the Culture Chat Planning Committee who are producers of today's program. Crystal Blake, Information Technology Manager at General Dynamics Mission Systems, Pittsville, Massachusetts. Cheryl Owen, who is a Sustainability Manager at HLW, New York, New York. Michelle Lopez, Executive Director at Berkshire Immigrant Center, Pittsville, Massachusetts. And Khaled Rocha, Financial Advisor and Portfolio Advisor at Merrill Lynch Wealth Management, Boston, Massachusetts. Since this program is designed for learning and networking, I'd like to ask you all to type in the chat box your name, company, title, location, and where you are joining us from. Let me quickly review some ground rules. For now, please stay on mute. Use the raise hand feature when we get the conversation going to participate. Remember to unmute when you are called on. Use the chat box for comments and questions pertinent to the topic. Our goal is to provide a supportive environment where everyone contributes. Please respect the diversity of opinions that are aired today. We want everyone to contribute, which is why we have incorporated breakout sessions in today's program. And so now I will pass it along to my co-host, Khaled.
Thank you, Aaliyah, and welcome all to this great program. We have a great topic coming up, and as Aaliyah said, my name is Khaled Rocha. I'm based out of Boston, Massachusetts, and I'm happy that you all came. So today's Culture Chat will explore the topic of creating a workplace culture where people want to stay. Very important, very popular topic right now, especially with what's going on with Great Resignation. As Aaliyah mentioned, this topic has drawn tremendous interest, and we're excited to air multiple perspectives as Culture Chat. It's a forum where we can openly and respectfully discuss our experiences, perspectives, and thoughts. Okay, so let's get the conversation going. You know, we actually had this poll sent out to everybody before coming today, and we aligned the poll to today's Culture Chat. Now, here are the first poll results. Now, the question of the poll was, how much does the culture of your organization factor in your decision to stay? 80% of us said to a large extent, including myself. Somewhat 18%, and then not at all 2%. So, you know, this was a very powerful response. We have 44 respondents, so many of you. And I presume since you received the link to the poll earlier this week, I'm sure you all answered it. So thank you. Now, Aaliyah, I mean, what do you think?
Yeah, so the data shows that culture really is a magnet, and it's an urgent priority for organizations regardless of industry, size, or status. As a large group, let's explore the cultural factors that currently matter most, whether you are a manager of a team or a member of a work team. What changes have been made in your organization to create supportive culture, particularly in fully remote or hybrid workplaces? And for this program, let's define culture as a collection of attitudes, beliefs, and behaviors that create the atmosphere of a work environment.
You know, that's great to hear. And like, you know, I want to get everybody looped in here and get the conversation going. So we did provide the kickoff question in advance to you, and it is, tell us How is the organization strengthening its workplace culture to create a positive experience and promote well-being? So please use the raise hand feature to share your comments. I'll call on you so that we could all not talk over each other. So when I call on you, please unmute, introduce yourself and where you work and where you're located at. So in the meantime, I did have some volunteers kind of raise their hand earlier, and I want to ask Jenna Perezzo, please, to share her thoughts. And thank you, Jenna. Welcome to the chat.
Hello, everyone. Thanks, Khaled. Happy to be here. Like Linda said, these are popular for a reason. Gets me energized and excited every time I join one of these calls. So for those of you who didn't see in the chat, I am a regional sales manager with Otis Elevator Company. Started with them on the East Coast, and now I'm based in Denver, Colorado. It's been a short but exciting 7.5 years at Otis. So started right out of college, and so I've really gotten to see the company at pivotal points in its transformation. In the last 7 years alone, there's been a ton of shifts, as there are everywhere around us today. And to answer the question, I think I'll start off by saying people want to work for people they like, right? And people they look up. And that builds naturally a culture of mutual trust, respect, and just helps foster that culture that keeps people on board. And right now, Otis in particular, we're a 160-year-old company, and now we're faced with trying to transform and continue to grow our business and become a culture where people want to stay and where young talent wants to come work. And so how do you help transform a company with that much history into a company that has to keep up with the growing popularity of, we're going to call it, the startup culture today. And I think something that Otis has been immensely pushing, especially in the last year and a half, is just the discussions and open conversations around diversity and inclusion, specifically through employee resource groups, which I'm assuming a lot of you at large organizations probably have seen or have something similar, talking about LGBTQ equality and gender rights equality, and just really making it a comfortable place for people to feel like they can speak up and say something that doesn't seem right to them. In addition, they've also added a variety of LinkedIn learning access to almost all of our employees, which is helping to develop leaders at all levels of the organization. And included in that is neuroscience training. So we've gone through a series of anti-bias training just to learn how the human brain works, because I don't know about you guys, but the first time I even learned about how bias is in us, whether we want it or not, was in one of my MBA courses. And now it's really cool to get to see an organization really trying to push that through all levels. And the last thing I'll say, there's a lot of work that can still be done as far as promoting wellness programs. Something that I think a lot of companies should offer is, gym memberships to keep people active and healthy and moving. And there's a degree of autonomy in an organization too for local managers to lead change initiatives that they want to see to promote a culture. So something I've done in particular for my team on Sunday, if those of you didn't know, was World Mental Health Awareness Day. And Otis is celebrating that throughout this whole week, actually. And so what I did to promote people going on walks and going outside and breathing fresh air, I canceled all my meetings this week, and I told them, do what you wish with your 30 minutes. So I think that's the fun part of leading change right now, is just getting to try things and reporting back to other people like you and seeing what works.
I think that's amazing, Jenna. Just because I just saw a quote earlier this week that people don't leave bad environments, they leave bad leaders. And so it seems like you guys are trying to make it a comfortable place for a team, because that's what the workplace is. It's a team and it should be comfortable. Khaled, do you want to say something before, because I see Gary's hand is raised?
Yes, no, I was gonna agree with that, Jenna. And it looks like
Yeah.
Otis, it's a historical company with over 100 years of history. They would not survive if they didn't adapt to the times, and I'm glad that they're doing that. Caution, you stay for 7.5 years, and just a long time, especially in our generation where you hop jobs when you're young. So I'm glad to hear that. So, yeah, Gary, if you want to go ahead and share your thoughts, please.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm a first-time participant at the invitation of Beth Gilbert, who is a case manager at our organization, and I'm pleased to be here. I love the mission. I love the conversation. So I see there's a lot of different types of businesses that are represented here. I am a senior director at 18 Degrees, which is a human services agency that works with children and families here in the Pittsfield and larger Berkshire County area, as well as in the Pioneer Valley and north of here, for those of you who might be familiar with the area here in the beautiful Berkshires. So it's a great day to be an employee of 18 Degrees. And I'll tell you that today people just received, their merit increases. The company did not spend as much on insurance, health insurance, as was anticipated. So they gave everybody an insurance premium holiday. Where we also received, as a 501(c), we received money through the ARPA funds, the American Rescue Plan Act, through the federal government, and they are specifically designed to retain frontline, first responders, and through people who typically, so if you're in the social work field, you may know that it's not a very highly paid profession to get into, and so some of these funds are a way of saying to the first responders, thank you so much for hanging in there with us through COVID and still working with the community. We found some of the most incredible ways to work with with our clients virtually and in a safe way. And Beth was very instrumental in that, doing virtual workshops with young people and incentives for them to stay in school. So anyway, a lot of way people stay with this organization is certainly the mission. The mission aligns with people's personal values. That's very important. That's probably number one reason why people get into this. It certainly is not for that salary. But some of the things that we've been trying to do has been, we took the diversity, equity, inclusion, and access, and we added that. And we came up with the acronym IDEA, I-D-E-A. And so that is an acronym that's around the agency that includes diversity, equity, inclusion, and access, because that's what what a lot of our issues with our families are. So we are doing a salary compensation right now, looking at what do case managers make across the country, what do they make in Massachusetts, what do they make in our region, is it fair, is it comparable, is it competitive? So we're looking at those kinds of things. We've added a vacation buyback, once a year, there's a small amount of vacation that you might want to sell back. We do have a generous vacation, sick, and personal time policy, free training for people to get re-credentialed and paying. So we're looking at all kinds of different ways to help folks who really aren't compensated favorably, to kind of help them stay in this field. So those are some of the things. I did hear about the wellness. Some of the previous speaker talked about the wellness. It's something I'm going to bring back to our team. Why don't we include gym memberships? Why don't we do some things along those lines? But for us, I do think it really is about the mission and transparency of this senior team. I've been at this for 33 years, and this is a company that I joined several years ago, and it was specific to the values aligned with my own personal values. So that's from the not-for-profit world.
No, Gary, that's great and well said. I mean, I loved your answer because you're looking at very from a holistic perspective, and I'm glad you are taking something back already from this chat from Jenna, the wellness factor. This is what this chat's all about, so I really like it. So I do want to move on to Anne McCarthy. She also previously to this, she volunteered to go kind of first, and I wanted her to sort of share her thoughts to the question. So please, Anne, go ahead.
Yeah, thanks, Khaled. Good to be here. Anne McCarthy. I work in executive communications at Twilio, which is a tech company. It's a customer engagement platform out in San Francisco. And so I'm in a little bit of an interesting position answering this question because I just started at Twilio. This is my 3rd week. So I think that's one of the big things about culture is that it's not necessarily concrete, and it can take a while and can be a challenge to really kind of get your arms around it and get a pulse on it. And I think that that's often one of the challenging things, especially when you're going through the interview process. And so in this case, I'm going to comment a little bit on what my experience has been with Twilio so far, and then also speak to my previous company. So because I just started Twilio, I'm very much still assessing what the culture is. But one of the reasons that I'm here is because all indications that I've got to this point have been that it's a culture that very much aligns with my values and is one which I fit in. And so I think that I had to rely pretty heavily on the interview process. And that's advice I give to a lot of people is like, don't dismiss the interview process. If you have a recruiter or hiring manager that is not being responsive or is not following through on what they said they are, or is kind of just leading you on, that is absolutely representative of the company. Whoever you're working with is a representative of the company. And so that's something to not just dismiss. So in this case, I had a really positive interview process. I love the hiring manager I was talking to. I went through a loop that had, I think, 4 or 5 people. And so I got a good idea across different departments and across the company of what they were about. And I was able to look for consistencies in what people said. So it wasn't just lip service necessarily, but things that seemed to be pretty consistent and woven throughout the organization. And the other thing is that Twilio has a set of like leadership principles or values. Some of you might be familiar. Amazon is very well known for that. And so people kind of have a North Star in terms of what the culture at the company is, how they're expected to conduct themselves, engage, and do business. And so that was something I looked for in the interview process, and I saw show up again and again, and have seen just in my 3 weeks. Now, going to my previous company, I was previously at Dropbox. And one of the things that I saw there that I really liked that they did was that the culture was very much set from the top. So the employees embodied it, but I've been at companies where it hasn't necessarily been set by leadership. And I think that's when it becomes weaker. And so at Dropbox, I saw that the leadership didn't just talk about what was important to them during COVID. They didn't just say like, oh, it's important you guys have work-life balance, but then expect us to be online or they're online at all hours. They really acted on it. They followed through on it, and they really evoked and showed that they cared about our well-being as full people and not just employees. The other thing was during COVID there was a lot that was going on the heels of George Floyd's murder. They gave us a a day off just for reflection. They sent out a recommended reading list and told us to expense books where we could learn about the history of race in this country, about racism. And they started a Truth and Reconciliation series, which was a month, I think it was a monthly or bi-weekly session that they put on, where they got experts from universities, from museums, authors who, and they had different topics every month that really looked at how we've gotten to where we are in the history of race in this country. And so again, it wasn't just about saying like, oh, we're going to make a donation to Black Lives Matter, or you can expense a book. They really like followed through and encouraged employees. And I saw executives on these calls. They weren't just putting them on and saying, you guys go attend them. So that was really, really encouraging to see. And one of the companies I think has done that the best. And I like felt that people felt that throughout the company.
Wow. Well, I mean, that sounds like there were so many sound bites from the beginning to the end throughout your feedback. I think I typed in the group, culture is not necessarily concrete, the North Star and the consistencies that you see within the group. I really, really love that. I really love everything that you shared as far as what you should look out for and what makes a good culture. Khaled?
I like that, and actually just wrote that in the chat, how like your company culture, and actually Gary and his company culture too, and Jenna's have they're encouraging education of culture in general to enhance their own company culture, because after all, we are all humans and we all have different perspectives. So this is really great. So I like that.
Absolutely. So we will be going into our breakout sessions, and there will be set moderators for that. And we will be talking about, they'll be asking these breakout discussion questions in the group, and you will answer them amongst each other, come back and talk as a whole after. Okay.
Hi all, welcome back. Wanted to thank you all for being part of this small group discussion. I hope it was all worth it. I wanted to kind of just quickly recap on what's going on, and hopefully, we are looking for a topic for our next culture chat. We want to keep this conversation going, maybe do a deeper dive, or maybe talk just something very similar topic for our next chat, because this chat, I feel, it's very important. We could keep going forever. So yeah, so let's start with group one. I think I'm gonna call on Danielle's group. So Danielle, anybody from your group that want to share on what you guys talked about?
Sure. So we were group 5. We had Merle and Connor, Beth, and Jenna in our group. And please, anybody feel free to chime in, but we really talked about some of the core things being, mutual trust and respect, being genuine, being transparent, advocating for your employees, contributing, being a part of a team, working with somebody who remembered that, you were a human first. And so that was really, what it talked about in number 1. For number 2 of like how important these factors and decision to stay, everybody said, they're really important. This really interesting perspective that Merle had is, for her, she would change jobs when she was done being challenged. And so that's how she continued to move through her career. And then lastly, we talked about introducing culture, and that was a interesting segue, because we learned that not everybody felt like we did a good job of introducing culture, but Connor shared some really great information about how Syracuse introduced the culture as he came in as a freshman. And so it was almost, I sat back and listened and heard like, oh, maybe we should do something like that, in our organizations, because I think colleges do a really good job of introducing you to the team and being a part of, what the message means to them, right? What it means to be an alumni. So
that's great. No, thank you for that quick review. Appreciate that. It sounds like a good discussion, especially from the college perspective. So Cheryl, anybody in your team or you wanna share? And
yeah, absolutely, I can share. We really dived into some really great content, and I'm going to start off on the last comment that we were talking about, which is essentially how happy are the individuals within your organization. We talked about strategies that makes us feel happy, right? So that, like, investing in wellness programs, or making sure that there is some kind of individual promotion that's occurring, or you're investing in my values, or there's a mission, right? Those are all strategies. But ultimately, like, what exactly is that's going to make me happy at the end of the day? And I absolutely love that we ended on that note. But we also talked about the fact that people want to make sure that there is intention and action around, like, everything that is being done. And for me, I say that it's also about, like, a feedback loop, right? It's one thing to make sure that you have a mission and you're putting in all these strategies, but essentially, what was the end goal? What is the hypothesis that you were trying to achieve? Why did you start this to begin with? And then making sure that the strategies that you are implementing, right, even if you are doing educational courses, even if you are doing wellness programs, what is the ultimate goal and what are the metrics around it, and making sure that you align with that. I feel like that's what's oftentimes missing in the conversation, because we talk about a lot of strategies that we would love to implement, and it may be superficial, you don't know, right? There may be loopholes, but you have to make sure that you're always doing that feedback loop. And I'll say one more, which is the dedication to your employee professional development was also another point that was brought up in the group. And I think I can align that with what was previously said, which is making sure that you constantly are feeling challenged, and that your company feels like that they are investing in you. That is an important component of a company culture. So I'm going to end it there. If anyone else in our group wants to chime in, I have Maple, as always. I'm always happy to have Maple in my group. Anyone else who wants to chime in from my group, feel free to do so now.
We also talk about connecting around food, and that's important to bring because we just hired a new analyst from Syracuse, and it was a little rough start because it's all virtual, and once we get back to the office, we start having group lunches and individual lunches, and people were able to connect much better, and you can tell that his guard is starting coming down a little bit and telling us more about his personal life, and so great. It's a very we all agree that food give you kind of create a more casual environment. Yeah.
Thank you, Maple. I'm going to move on to another group real quick because we only have 4 minutes left on this discussion. So let's go somebody from Crystal's group, please.
I took some notes, so I can be the one to jump in and share.
Okay.
So my group had Marie, Rowena, Elizabeth, Paul, and myself. And on just the things most important to us, we spoke about people first, feeling like your company is investing in you, inclusion, and feeling like the company's values are aligned with your own, and then also transparency. And we spoke about some of the same things that Cheryl's group did around the feedback, and making sure, if you can't make the changes that are being recommended, you're explaining why, and you're really talking about it, but making sure that you are taking action, that it has that full connection point, so it isn't just words, right? That it's making real change. Mm-hmm. And then we also talked about, introducing culture to employees at the interview, really starting up front, and then in the initial training and onboarding, finding ways to weave in the culture and make sure that that's really recognizable for a company. And then finally, Marie asked a really great question about, the difference between making a donation to an organization, maybe in the diversity inclusion space or something like that, versus actually making changes, having the conversations, and doing that a bit more grassroots, and what's important. And there were some varying opinions amongst the group, but a lot of, both are important. But sometimes those conversations can be more impactful than
that's
money.
Great debate. That's actually a great debate. I kind of wish I was there for that, but that's awesome. Yeah, it's awesome. All right, somebody from my group, I know I've already told Anne to do our recap.
Yes. So really quickly, a couple things. One, it starts at the top. So what leadership is not only saying, but doing is so important and permeates the organization. Two, feeling valued. And so I think a lot of things touch this. So feeling like you're a full person, not just an employee or not just what your role says that you are, feeling that you're empowered and that wherever you are is a fit for your style, what you need in terms of work-life balance and your mental health. And then finally, that culture isn't something, it shouldn't be a complete shock once you get to a company. You should be looking at indications at a job rec during your interview to see what comes up, to get some early indicators of what the culture is going to be once you join.
Yeah, no, thank you. And in our group, it was Anne, Gary, Linda. Sorry. Yeah, Gary, Linda. Yeah. Yin, Renee, and myself. Excuse me. Okay, and then the last group is Michelle. Michelle, anybody from your group or yourself want to share?
Yeah, I took notes. Our group was Josephine, Michelle Ware, Andrea, and Ted. And I'm just going to mention the things that weren't mentioned by other groups. And then for number one, it was something that I felt was incredibly powerful that Josephine shared. And it was the power of allyship is incredibly important. So people who have been in a position for a long time or have, power, have a certain status, a lot of the, like white cisgender males, are they helping people who have been underrepresented and minoritized come up the ranks? Are they not just, doing DEI work, like reading a book and then afterwards not doing anything about it? Are they actually walking their talk? Which I really loved that part. So thank you, Josephine. For number two, we said that, culture is important now more than ever. We as individual employees seem to have more leverage now to make decisions to stay or leave after doing self-assessment, making sure that we have a sense of belonging in a company or entity. Does the mission energize us? What makes us passionate is what makes us stay. COVID has really changed people's priorities, and it's nice to know that, for the first time in a long time, it seems like employees are the ones with the most power right now, which is important. And then for the third one, employees introduce culture to new hires by discussing history, personal experience, and examples of how the organization walks their talk. And we were saying that it seems to mean a lot more to new hires when it comes from a fellow colleague and not from a director or president or CEO, because of course the director, president, or CEO is going to be like, yeah, we're awesome, our company is the best, because they want you to stay, they want you to work hard. But hearing it from your peer and knowing that they've had a great experience and they're being candid and honest with you is what's really important in showing what the culture is at the organization.
I like that, Michelle. Thank you for sharing. And I think, so Connor just shared what the Syracuse did for incoming freshmen. So if you guys, and in the chat, so if you guys want to take a look at that, it's fantastic. All right, with that, guys, we are at 12:56. I really thank you for all your points of view. I know we had different points, different perspectives, and I'm glad we kept it respectful as this chat is supposed to be. And I thank you for everybody for joining today.